What up, everybody? This is Crypto Dale, and you have tuned in to the Crypto Street Podcast. Just want to welcome everybody. Thank you very much for tuning in with us, whether it's Monday night, the 11th is when we're recording, or Tuesday, the 12th, when this comes out. I think that's when it's going to come out. Joined, as always, with my main man out in sunny California, Killer Whale. What's going on, brother?
Not so sunny today, unfortunately. Pretty cloudy out, but can't complain. It's been a very cool winter here. I know everyone's like, shut up, nobody cares. It's still warm, but for me, it's been cold. But otherwise, doing pretty well. I'm excited about some of these alt setups we're seeing. I'm scared to say the words, but
Don't do it.
I have a good feeling.
Yeah, it's I made a tweet earlier tonight about or earlier today about some charts that we've kind of been I know you're in some of them too, so that's why I can say we've been kind of watching. So it feels pretty good to get that excitement back up and see some stuff pumping. But yeah, hopefully we're right around the corner. But in the meantime, we'll just kind of hammer out some other stuff. So Prince is doing hockey things. He's got he's playoff time, crunch time for him, so he will not be joining us tonight. But we'll get the whole crew back together here shortly. So got a special guest tonight, Franklin Fitch. He's the head of marketing at Beaxy. So it's a new exchange that's going to be launching soon. So I say soon, like everything else. That's just the prototypical answer, soon, right? So Franklin, Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me, gentlemen. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, and for the record, I was at the Beaxy launch party in Chicago, and I just want to go and say that these dudes know how to party. Like that was wild. That was wild time. So kudos to you guys.
No, cheers, man. Thanks for coming out. I think the event went great. We had some really exciting personalities there. That was actually that's my personal baby, that event. That was my idea originally, and I kind of executed like a lot of it in terms of the planning, if not most. So I was really happy that it went well. I mean, my parents were there. Like my parents drove in from out of state to come to that. So that's kind of how significant it was for us. Yeah.
Pretty cool to see that support from your parents. The only thing I have to say negative about it was I can't remember which guy on the team had the bush light in his car that we were supposed to go shotgun some, but
that was Cooper. If that didn't go through, then that's unacceptable. The other thing too, I remember running around looking for you at the end of the night with a hoodie in my hands. And I swear. I mean, I literally
I remember you messaging me afterwards and saying,
yeah, I grabbed the hoodie and I was like, where is
damn it?
And I couldn't find you.
Yeah, I was with a lot of the hero team, and we were starving. So as soon as kind of the night winded down, we went tailed out there to go grab some grub. So, but I appreciate it. So let's just dive right in. I'm just going to start out now. Tell us what Beaxy is. What sets you apart from everything else? Give us your elevator speech here, quick.
Yeah, sure. So Beaxy is an upcoming cryptocurrency exchange. Some of our key differentiators, well, the main key differentiator for us is our trading engine, which is built in collaboration with a company called OneTick. One Market Data is their other name that they go by. OneTick's actually their solution that they sell to other companies. So we call them OneTick. It's a little bit easier that way. Anyway, their clients include your Bloombergs, your Federal Reserves of the world, really kind of like legacy finance giants. And what they do for them is they provide tick data solutions, basically streaming finance data. You can look them up on the web and kind of see what they've been doing. And whenever we were starting the journey at Beaxy, we realized that crypto exchanges didn't really have the performance that legacy exchanges did. A lot of hangups, a lot of hiccups, lapses in service when the throughput was high, things like that. And we didn't want to have that. We wanted to design a trading engine that could scale, and we wanted to bring advanced order types to the market. And so our founders had designed basically a core algorithm for the exchange, and then reached out to OneTick and said, hey, help us take this to the next level. And they got back to us literally within minutes. I mean, kid you not, like within minutes. And we're like, hey, we've actually been interested in getting into crypto. We didn't have the right proposition until you guys, and we think this is probably the one to go with. So really the differentiators for us are built on a legacy finance technology platform that is fundamentally more advanced than we believe anything in crypto. So it gives us throughput on the level of NASDAQ. Basically, we're clocking speeds like NASDAQ is. And also we are coming out the gate with more order types than really any other exchange in crypto has ever had. Those are our two main pillars. I think there's a lot of other stuff that we come out the gate with too, like a unique approach to the crypto community, really rigorous approach to customer support, a bunch of other bells and whistles on the exchange itself that are exciting. But I would say those are our two main differentiators.
I saw yet another article today about exchanges and how fraudulent a lot of the volume is on a lot of the big exchanges. And it was making me think of this episode and talking to you. So I'm curious what you guys are doing or what you have planned in order to kind of jumpstart the liquidity of the exchange.
Right. Well, I think there's probably two questions that merit answering in that. It is one, what are our liquidity plans? And then two, what is the veracity of our liquidity? Like, is it real? Is it legitimate? So I'll answer the first one first. We have been working really diligently with a variety of market makers in the last probably 4 months. To be honest, we shifted our focus away from fundraising for the last 3 months to focus on market making, because arguably it's more important. If you come out the gates and you don't have liquid books, people are going to be like, what is this? Is this just some other joke exchange? Like, why are we even trading here? It's all about the user experience, and liquid books is really an essential part of that. So we've put a tremendous amount of focus into it. We've been talking to legacy market makers and crypto market makers. So that there's that kind of dedication from the biz dev side. And then we have actually a rebate structure, which makes us, I believe, the only spot exchange in crypto that will offer a rebate on the maker side. So if you're a maker in the market, you can actually profit more on Beaxy than you could at any other spot exchange. Now, again, that's our understanding of it. We've done our diligence. We haven't seen other exchanges really having that rebate structure. BitMEX does, but no spot exchanges do. So there's that. And then there's kind of a broader attraction of the retail trader that we've executed on. You guys have probably seen our referral contest that was everywhere on Twitter for probably too long. But that was another aspect of it too, where we're attracting those retail traders. And then I think the second part of your question, Will, is is the volume legitimate? So two aspects of that in our case, right? Our partnership with OneTick, the way that we actually route the orders in our system means that we would basically need their complicity to fake orders ourselves. So in terms of like internal wash trading, it's just not possible. Like the integrity of the company that we're working with, their history in the market, servicing various players, and the fact that we would need their buy-in to do any kind of internal wash trading, it just means it's not going to happen. The other aspect of that too is we are working on a market surveillance tool partnership right now. So there's been some really big news around Gemini getting NASDAQ's market surveillance tool. And actually, if we've seen any SEC enforcement on exchanges, it's usually been around KYC and market surveillance, the lack of them. We're very close to finalizing a market surveillance partnership.
What has been like the toughest part? Because I think especially, you go back like 2-3 years ago, almost anybody with the technical know-how could open up an exchange and just kind of get it going. But the environment's got to be way different. It's probably way different than even when you guys first started the project.
That's exactly right.
So what have been some of what have been some of the biggest challenges you guys have faced in terms of like whether it be KYC or just making sure all the regulations line up, or anything that kind of jumps out at you as tough?
Gosh, where to begin? It's easily the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, and I think probably everyone on the Beaxy team would agree. And you're right, actually, in the sense that when we started, the outlook was way different than it is now. And even in the middle of it, I think the middle of the journey was the hardest part, because the market was really in a continuous bearish trend. So fundraising was difficult. And I think objectively, to speak honestly with you guys, like, we didn't have much experience fundraising. We weren't a team of like serial entrepreneurs in a traditional sense. I think we all have an entrepreneurial spirit and had some involvement with small business prior to that, but not like VCs and fundraising and anything like that. So that was pretty challenging. From a technical perspective, we're trying to do something that's never been done before. So that's also really difficult, like on the devs and but we've got a really, increasingly big team of, I think, geniuses working on this stuff. So that's exciting. I think that's been a problem that we've conquered a little quicker than the others. And then, yeah, I mean, understanding the web of like regulations and all that stuff has been tricky. One thing that we spoke about on a previous podcast that I think was a huge differentiator for us is we actually had some lawyers come in and offered them equity from the beginning, and like skilled lawyers as well, so that we didn't have to pay these exorbitant hourly costs. As an exchange, you're right at the center of that kind of stuff, the regulations.
Absolutely.
And you really need multiple in-house lawyers. Like there's no way around that. And if you're paying by the hour for that, it's just, you're going to, hang yourself on that rope. Like you can't go that route. So you really need to bring those people in and offer them a stake in your business and, kind of move forward that way.
Yeah, I was taking a look at the team. It's super impressive. I mean, that's like one of the first things, I've peeped your website in the past and done some research, obviously, because it's been all over Twitter and everything. But I think that's one of the first things I look for on any new project, whether it be a coin, an exchange, is you look at the team just to get some sense of the legitimacy of it, And it seems like you guys have a really good cast of people, whether it be the advisors, the people who are on crypto Twitter, like you mentioned, the lawyers, the founder, all that sort of stuff. And I think that just, you can't undersell the importance of that. So I would imagine it's been pretty cool working with all those different people for you personally.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm so inspired by the devs. Like the tech people at Beaxy are geniuses, and I mean, I really don't mean to be cocky when I say this, but most of my life I was one of the smartest people in the room. And then I hang around these guys and I'm like, I'm middle of the pack. I might even be the lower third quartile here. Like, this is crazy.
Now you know how I feel, Franklin.
No, don't sell yourself short, brother. But I mean, these guys are just on another level. It's just crazy to hang around people that are that smart, and Artok in particular, our CEO, is just, I think he's probably the smartest person I've ever met in my life. We'll be in the meeting room, or wherever we are, talking about objectively complex problems. I think so many problems in crypto, like no one has ever solved problems like this. They're like brand new problems that have never really existed before. And this guy will just kind of think about them for 5 seconds and come up with a extremely elegant solution. And it still blows my mind, like the fact that he can do it regularly. So yeah, you're exactly right, man. It's been super inspiring to work with a lot of the folks on the Beaxy team.
I think you guys are in an interesting place too, because crypto's at a place right now where it's like there are a lot of things that have happened in the past like 3 to 4 years in terms of lessons to learn for new projects, but it's still like at the point where it's small enough where if you do solve a lot of those problems for people, you can still become a very main player. It's not far enough along where it's like any new exchange is just like hopeless.
Yeah.
I think especially with all the fake volume that we see and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly my perspective. I think you actually framed it up pretty much perfectly. That there's some non-relevant exchanges, I'll just say that have introduced no fundamental innovation to the market and are slowly becoming illiquid and irrelevant. And then you've got, industry leaders who are still slow to introduce innovation. That's the thing I'm kind of looking at it like, why is this happening? Like, what are they doing? Have they just become lazy? Or I don't know. I mean, I have to kind of guess at why they're not introducing innovation, because there's no logical answer to it. But I think that's our perspective, is if we can come in strong and introduce a bunch of innovation and keep doing that for the first year, at least, like on a very rigorous pace, there's no reason that we can't gravitate towards, the higher market share exchanges. Right now, you're looking at Kraken with like 2.5–3% of the market. Binance with something like 12 to 15%, some outrageous percentage. I think we can break into that above 2.5% market share pretty quickly. The fact that we require KYC, as you pointed out before, is a challenge. But one broker just got written up by the CFTC for this. And if you look at Ether Delta's prosecution notes, that was actually the same reason, was KYC. And I've been screaming this from the mountaintop. I don't think people are listening to me. That is what they're going to come down on. I think that's what the regulators are going to come down on first, is KYC. So that's why we had it from the beginning. So while it's a challenge for us to scale up users because of it, I do think it will be an industry standard within probably 4 to 6 months.
Yeah, I could easily see you guys overtaking Kraken very early on. I just think it's sort of the idea that it's hard to shake like a bad reputation. And Kraken, say what you will about what it is now, but for a long time, Kraken was like, you go there if you have no other choices because there's no liquidity.
Yeah.
And they've improved a lot in a lot of ways, but it's still kind of hard to shake that reputation, I think. But I think you guys are going to have enough of an infrastructure and a network to really like get off the ground strongly and not have it be a problem. And also something I'm thinking too, and I mean, this is more like, market thoughts, but like if the market has bottomed, like a lot of people are starting to think, and we're starting to get more new people flowing in, then you guys could be launching at a really good time in terms of,
Yeah.
capitalizing on the influx of interest and then new people who they hear about it on Bloomberg or something.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with that take. And for the longest time, it looked like we were definitely not going to launch under optimal conditions, but timing has a weird way of working out at the last second. And then I think to your previous point, our reputation wasn't spotless there for some period of time, and I do actually commend Kraken for kind of bouncing back from that. Introducing some new innovations and doing a really great job of customer service. I think if Kraken's absolutely nailed one thing, they probably have the best customer service in crypto exchange world right now. So that's been really cool to kind of look at their example and look at their lead. But yeah, I mean, I think timing wise, we're probably in a really good spot. I mean, like you say, if we're not at the bottom now, we're close. And I can feel the winds shifting, so to speak. The sentiment feels like it's really shifting positive recently.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think you would probably agree with that too, Dale, right?
Yeah,
And
for
just in terms
sure.
of Twitter
Absolutely.
and like what our chats are like in our own little groups on Telegram. I think
Franklin, let's kind of switch gears here a little bit and talk about maybe the UI and some of the features and functions of the wallet before we get into some other things like your staking program and the loyalty program and stuff like that. So, one thing you were kind of showing us a little snippet of before we went on air, and one thing that you had mentioned that said is getting some good feedback, and I think it was something that I really liked was the profit loss calculator function that you guys have in there. Can you talk about that a little bit more and maybe tell someone that has absolutely no idea or hasn't seen anything about it?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, a couple of the folks that we worked with from very very early days. I hate to use the word influencer, but I guess I'll have to. It just leaves a terrible taste in my mouth. But a couple of these folks that I mean, they're more of advisors to us than anything. But had worked with us from early days. We're really excited about this feature, and what basically it allows you to do. There's a little calculator icon when you open up the exchange in the top bar. So you'll click that icon, and then it'll come up with basically what's your trading pair, what's your entry position, et cetera, et cetera. It asks you for different details about your trade setup, and it'll basically tell you if your setup executes in this way, here's what you're going to make. And if you can plug in a negative scenario. So if your position executes the way that you don't want it to, what will I lose? I think there's a lot of different features in the exchange that are designed to save you time. So the other thing that I showed you guys was the multiple wallets per currency.
Yeah.
And that's another example of like a little thing. It doesn't seem like a fundamental innovation, but when you actually look at like what it's going to do for you, it's going to save you a bunch of time. If you have different risk portfolios for Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever it is, and you want to trade in and out of those risk portfolios, you can do that with wallets labeled high, medium, low risk, for example. You can also hold money for other people who might send it to you. I mean, we're all sending crypto to each other all the time for different purposes. If you have some crypto of someone else that they've sent you, you can actually put it in a unique wallet with their name on it and not worry about, oh, how much exactly did they send me? Let me go look at the blockchain or whatever I need to look at some physical notes I took, or look at a transaction, record. You can actually just have it in a wallet and you don't need to worry about that stuff. So I think there's a lot of features that we built into Beaxy that we're trying to do exactly that, which is save you time and save you headache.
Yeah, the multiple wallet thing is super interesting to me because just the other day I was like, I was on Binance or some exchange, and I was like, just wishing I could like just generate a new address for a coin, and like something as simple as that, you can't really do. And maybe there is an exchange where you can do that currently, but I'm not familiar with it. If so,
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think
I
so.
don't know of any others that have it. So, I mean, it's kind of cool. I mean, whenever I look at you know, the Beaxy like beta version, I just get excited because I'm like, this is the exchange I want to trade on. You know, I'm not saying that as like an employee of Beaxy. I'm like, just objectively, this is like a very cool exchange. You know, and I wish I didn't have the restrictions that I have on trading on Beaxy because of, you know, different things, knowledge that I'm privy to, so to speak. But I just think I think it's exactly what I would design myself. So.
Well, it just looks nice too. Like even like put aside all the features, like it looks good. Like you showed us like a little bit of a demo before the episode started, and I think that's important too because I mean whether people admit it or not, they totally judge books by the cover. You know, you do it with people, you do it with websites, everything. You know, you go to a project that you think is interesting, and they have an absolutely crappy website. It affects you, you know, and you're like, really? Like you put together this like shoddy thing.
Yeah,
And so I think
that's exactly it. Yeah.
yeah, and night mode too. Night mode is an absolute must.
Oh, I'm a night mode maximalist. Like
Me too.
I'll go to bat for that one any day of the week.
People like to be contrarian using light mode, but I think it's mainly trolling, to be honest. I mean, I guess some people actually prefer light mode, but I don't get it.
It's so offensive to the eye. I can't imagine like looking at that for any consistent period of time.
Wait till you get old, boys.
Yeah, not old yet. I'm an old soul, I guess. I feel old.
Franklin, Doc asked in the children that we'd get there. You guys have integrated the trading view chart, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's another huge one. I think that like should be standard because like I go to an exchange that doesn't have that, and it's just, I mean, granted you can go to TradingView, but having it integrated is just way more seamless, way more, you know, just hassle free. Which I think that's kind of been a goal of it too, is just being like, in terms of the design, like not having to like scroll tons of places or go to tons of different screens, like having like a big dashboard really where like you can do almost everything from one page.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's people that have their like Millennium Falcon type 6-screen setup, you know, some crazy advanced trading setups. And the cool thing that we actually early realized that you could do, you could expand out different like order book windows and things in the trading page, and you can move them onto other screens. So if you want to basically dissect the trading page into different literal screens, you can actually do that. And then the trading view, one thing that I was really excited to hear about it is it'll actually save your TA. So if you're doing some TA in Beaxy, you can come back to it and it'll still be there, like exactly how you had it.
Nice. That's pretty cool. I don't know of any other ones that do that actually. Do you, Keller?
Integrated trading view?
That like keeps the chart saved if you come and leave.
I don't know. I think so. I'm not sure though.
It's a trading view feature if I'm not mistaken. So if other folks have trading view integrated, they should be able to do it. I'm not 100% because I know there's an advanced version of trading view as well. So I'm not 100% sure if like all exchanges would have that if they have trading view, but I know we do, and that was something I was just like, oh, that's really cool. I mean, it goes back to that previous point about just making life a little bit easier for you. Yeah. It's like, you know, every little thing is just saving you 30 seconds to a minute, and that adds up over time.
And also, I probably don't know because I never really chart on an exchange, so that's probably my own fault and dumb question.
Yeah, 100% transparency here. I'm not a trader. Like, I don't trade.
You're a marketer, Franklin. You're a marketer.
Yeah, I mean, I tell stories, but like I know the stories that I'm telling, and at the end of the day, I'm around traders 24/7 all day. So, and it's not even just the crypto traders. Living in Chicago, I mean, you got CBOE, CME. These guys were the ones who created, you know, Bitcoin futures on the market. There's so many super savvy traders here that are, you know, pioneers in crypto in one way or another, or just like sharks in legacy markets. Mm-hmm. So kind of being like a sponge around those people, you just learn a tremendous amount. You know, despite not being an active trader myself, I feel like I know the basics and probably a good deal more at this point.
Are you guys is Coinbase gonna support your API?
Yeah, I don't know how much I can say there. We had a conversation with Coinbase. And I think their position is totally justified. They basically said, let's wait and see what happens. You know, let's look at your first 3 to 6 months. How does the volume increase? How does the user acquisition go? Do you have any major issues? Things like that. So we have talked with a lot of other platforms for integration. A lot of the apps, different portfolio apps, for example. But Coinigy, I think, is kind of a leader in what they do, and they wanted to be a little bit more judicious with the process, and I totally respect and understand where they're coming from. So, if we're in a good spot 4, 5, 6 months out, then I'm sure that'll happen.
Good. Somebody's asking, I feel I'd be remiss if I didn't ask this. Will you guys have a Trollbox?
I knew you were going to take
Oh my God. If we don't get that question like every other day at this point, honestly, we've talked about it, like not ironically either. Like we've talked about it. We haven't dismissed it. It's come up so much. It's like, if you're gonna say that you listen to users and then a bunch of users ask for a Trollbox, you have to take it seriously. At the end of the day, like, 1,000 user suggestions to go jump off a cliff is not the right suggest. You know what I mean? So like that's the counterpoint to that. But I think we've taken it pretty seriously, and we're looking into it. There's no definitive answer right now. Honestly, so much of our resources are just going to getting this thing out the door. And we've got a really long backlog of great suggestions from users already. But I think Trollbox is like in the active consideration pool.
That's good.
All right. Something I for sure wanted to ask about, I think it'd be dumb if I didn't with any kind of exchange episode, is there anything you can talk about in regards to the security measures the exchange has taken or is going to take?
I actually have a whole bunch of stuff I could talk about in relation to that. And I mean, let's take the definition of security a little bit beyond what people might traditionally think it is. Protecting your funds, let's just call it that, right? So security is, I think most people are implying from a technical perspective, what are you doing to secure the funds? There's a few things that we're doing there. Artak, our CEO, likes to joke, the more you talk about security, the less secure it gets. I generally think he's right. So there's some things that we don't talk about, but there is a general process technically where, I'll give you one example. Funds come into the hot wallets. There's a mechanism that minimizes the exposure to the hot wallets. So what we've seen in most compromises with exchanges is really bad hot wallet policy, where their hot wallets are, for one reason or another, compromised. And with Cryptopia, even in particular, there was a really large amount of money that I think was on the hot wallet, and it was like, why was there ever that much money on the hot wallet to begin with, just sitting there? So that didn't really make sense to us. We kind of just assumed a lot of the things that we had thought of were pretty standard practice, and looking at some of these hacks recently, it's like pretty clear that they aren't. So this process automates a movement from hot wallets to cold wallets. So cold wallets, again, much harder to hack. We're basically minimizing statistically exposure to hot wallets by assuming, based on current trade volumes, what the max withdrawal amount would be at any given time, and taking a standard deviation or two above that, and then taking everything else and putting it into cold. Now, related to cold wallets as well, we're very close to finalizing, and I mean by very close, like a week or two away from finalizing custody agreements. So we will have 2 custody partners, as I understand it. I don't want to say too much because I don't know exactly how much I can reveal, but we will have as we are currently planning it, a custody partner for our fiat currency and a custody partner for our main cryptos, like our Bitcoin, Ethereum, etc. And the custody partner one of the custody partners that we are exploring, I believe will also grant us insurance. So our cold wallets will be insured up to $100 million is what I was told. So I think that's an important aspect of security that's probably doesn't fit traditionally within the realm of what you think of as crypto security. But it's really like, are my funds safe, so to speak? Like, if I go to check on the funds, will they be there? And the answer is yes. In our case, like there's a number of levels that we're taking to approach that. So it's really like technical security, custody, insurance are kind of the three main levels, and we're trying to hit all of those. I mean, literally from like very, very early on in Beaxy days, Artok was adamant about getting insurance. You know, it's because there's only so much you can do to protect funds, but if you've got insurance, it's that last bit of security and assurance. So that was something from really, really early on in Beaxy that we wanted. It was very hard to get for a very long period of time, and like finally we had a breakthrough on it the other day, and it looks like we're going to have a pretty substantial insurance package. So
that was when you were talking about the different measures, that was what stuck out most to me, was the insurance, because I think, like, exactly like you said, it's kind of that final safety net where it's like, even if something does happen, you're okay. It's like they stay flying, you know, the plane can blow out an engine and still like fly most of the way with one engine. Where it's like, it does a lot to kind of ease your concerns, you know, and especially you look at things like Quadriga and Cryptopia recently, and I don't know if you guys are sitting in the office like popping bottles of champagne when you read those stories, but I think
I think we're all like kind of like, what the hell is going on? Like that. I mean, just speaking from literal experience, being in the office at those times, we're like, what is this? You know, like what? It's embarrassing, to be honest, because if you're I mean, you're putting literally your life into this. Beaxy in particular, like we give everything to this, man. Like we work crazy hours, you know, and it's their entire lifestyle. We all hang out together, you know, pretty much all the time. So, I mean, you're giving your life to this idea, which is an idea of a way crypto exchanges should be, and then popping off left and right are these like absurd, you know, scams or hacks. And it's like, man, you're kind of debasing this entire like platform that I'm standing on. So I would say there's some hint of like celebratory nature where you're just like, another one bites the dust, but the main feeling is like, man, you're really short selling this entire thing that I think we stand for. So I think it kind of pisses us off most of all.
And like the thing is too, like we see like us, because we're like deep in the woods in crypto, like we see things like that and we're like, oh well, they weren't handling it properly. But like the perception among like average mom and pop and just like a lot of average people when something like Quadriga happens is completely out there. Like I think I remember seeing tweets, people getting texts from like their dad being like, did you hear the CEO of Bitcoin died and like he had like half the holdings? It's like, no,
I saw that.
Exactly
I saw exactly what you're referencing. Yeah.
Yeah. But that happens, you know, and like that story gets told to his friends, and then his uncle tells his brother, and he tells his boss, and it's like, and those stories spread. And if you're not really aware of what's going on and what the intricacies of these things are, I mean, that could be your perception of what crypto exchanges are.
100%. I think that's the part that frustrates me, because the media is looking for stories like that to smear crypto with, and when that's what gets circulated. There's so much good that happens in this space. I said this space. I was going to try not to say it at all on this podcast. Shucks. But there's so much good that happens in crypto, and I think it's such an important set of technologies for the world. And then for that to be like what the story that gets shared, it's like, man, we were making such great progress here, you know, and then we have like one slip up, and the media just takes it and, you know, lights it on fire and throws it everywhere they possibly can. So it's frustrating, and especially when you work for an exchange. I think exchanges are big targets, and you know, it's a shame when they fail, and when they fail in such spectacular and negligent fashion.
All right, Franklin, let's touch base on the loyalty program you guys have.
Yeah, so there's actually some nuance to it. There's kind of a couple parts. There's a staking program, which basically, if you have Beaxy tokens, you can stake them on the exchange, and you will get increased discounts on your trading fees. So you can get down to, I think it's like 7 basis points. You know, it's like a 0.07% fee. I think you can get up to like a 62.5% discount. You can get down to a really, really low level of fees, is what I'm trying to say, when you use Beaxy and you stake them. The more Beaxy you have, the better your rewards will be. It's based on like a user level system. So this was kind of a new thing. We hadn't really seen something exactly like this. And so, you know, you accumulate Beaxy, you stake them, you get really, really great fee structures, you know, competitive with any exchange in the world, if not better. And then there's the loyalty program as well. So we have another token, which is basically like a sort of feature of the platform, so to speak. It's non-fungible. never will be for sale. It can only be swapped if you're in basically, approved jurisdictions, because it has, securitized features. And so if you want to swap for this token, you'll be able to do so, and you'll be able to get a share of trading fees generated from the exchange, as based on, a couple things: the amount of tokens that you hold, and then the duration that you lock them. So if you want to get those passive rewards, in terms of kind of a loyalty reward or a money back, whatever you want to call it, you'll basically need to get your Beaxy, swap it out for the PLS token, and then you lock that PLS token. The longer that you lock it at any given time, the better rate you will get back. So those are the main kind of reward mechanisms for Beaxy.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's super important, because I mean, there's so many exchanges out here now. It's like, what do you do to differentiate? Because I mean, like, granted, most of them are not high volume or don't have much traction at all. But I think as many features as you can add to like entice people to use you, it's going to increase liquidity just by virtue of bringing people onto the platform, and then B, if people can make a return, that's like a whole nother aspect to look at.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I think we kind of like threw a bunch of stuff at the wall early on and looked at what stuck, and used a lot of feedback from folks around what they wanted to see. And that led to the construction of Beaxy. We always say, like, this is a community built exchange, and it's quite literal in the sense that, our founders, certain early members were members of a bunch of different crypto communities, and they just asked their friends, like, what would a great exchange look like, and came up with this. So it really is in many ways an assembly of different features, some that have never existed, some that have existed but have never been pulled together in one place. It's why we kind of go with that all-in-one tagline. As a marketer, I was like originally not thrilled with the all-in-one tagline. I was like, I just don't know if that's the spiciest way to present this brand. But then as I thought about it more and more, I was like, that actually is exactly what this is. It is a pulling together of different features.
So, Franklin, what is next for you guys in terms of anything that's going to happen towards the end of Q1 here or going into Q2? What are the next big steps or big events people should watch out for?
Yeah, so we'll be launching soon. To go back to that fateful word. I like to joke that, like, well, because I mean, I used to ask the devs for deadlines on things all the time. I feel like marketers want deadlines, because if you have a set date in the future that something's happening, you can do a lot more as a marketer. But for devs, it's really hard, because there's always unanticipated challenges, changes, tweaks, things that happen, things that break at the last minute. So we're very, very close. I'll say in terms of the Beaxy product, like the final version that we're launching with, and final in a relative sense, like there's a ton of stuff that we're going to build onto the exchange after we launch. But I mean, the final version that we're launching with is literally done. Like it's done. But the amount of testing that you have to do on it is ridiculous, because every feature, every order type has to be tested in a bunch of different ways. So the launch is the one thing that's like literally right around the corner. And then I think immediately after that, what we're going to be looking to do from a development perspective is add new order types as quick as possible. One that people are really excited about us adding is stop loss, take profit. We've had it from a functional perspective implemented for a while, but there was a couple of bugs with it, so we kind of took it out of the rotation, and we're going to put it back in very soon. So stay tuned for that. And then the other piece is fiat trading pairs. So we've made a ton of progress on this. I don't know if there's really other exchanges that have come out of the gate with that as quickly as we'll come out of the gate with it, but that's something that we plan on having really, really soon, within the scope of Q2. So by the end of Q2, can pretty much guarantee we'll have it in probably the first half of Q2. So that's really exciting. And then what we want to do from a marketing and user acquisition perspective is expand internationally. That's kind of my main goal, is how do I get Beaxy to be a global brand, a global product? So that involves visiting different places. That involves working with different community leaders in those places. And it's really a super comprehensive thing that we're going to be working on for the remainder of the year, but most especially in Q2, is becoming a really global brand. So I would say those are probably the three main things: the order types, the fiat pairs, and then our international presence.
In terms of international, are there any countries in particular you're targeting or looking at in terms of increasing exposure?
For sure. Yeah. And a lot of it's guided by the data. I'd say nearly all of it is guided by the data where, we can look and see what the adoption rates of, there's a really great chart that's been floating around of the percentage of users by country for different crypto exchanges. So that's really fascinating data to look at. The overall kind of adoption of blockchain and cryptocurrency by nation. Plenty of great data on that. So we've been looking at those. I think if we're looking at specific countries, we've already gotten a huge groundswell of support in Turkey. Obviously some of your Latin American countries, because I think there's particularly, relevant political movements happening right now, social movements that have increased cryptocurrency adoption. And from a, we need this perspective, Latin America is really top of the list in terms of actual usability or necessity of cryptocurrency. And then, a lot of Asian countries, Korea, there's Japan has had some really interesting developments in cryptocurrency recently. A bunch of other, nations in Europe that we're looking at. And then Africa, I think, is actually a really, we've seen Binance has done some great stuff in Africa with these fiat exchanges in a lot of African nations. So that's really an exciting example to follow. And I think that African countries will probably have some really legitimate use cases for cryptocurrency going forward. So I think that those are the ones that I would probably say off the top of my head are highest priority.
One last thing I wanted to touch on, you were showing us a little bit before the episode in terms of the knowledge base on Beaxy and what that's going to look like in terms of not only bringing traders in, but informing new people about different coins and trading styles and different trades you can make. Talk a little bit about what the thought process was in terms of building that knowledge base and how perhaps that compares to something like Binance, which I think people know very well for all of the knowledge they have within the exchange itself.
For sure. Yeah. So, first of all, kudos to Binance for, specifically their Binance Academy initiative, I think has been really cool. That's a really exciting approach. Coinbase has done their Earn program, whatever the detractors may have to say about it. I still think it was a really clever idea. So we kind of looked at some of those models and actually we had been thinking about these things, I think, before either of those guys came out with those approaches, but having a really robust set of resources, knowledge, trading tools, etc., for folks who want to come use the Beaxy platform. I think our knowledge base and our FAQ section is, by count, already double the size of Binance's. We're really, really taking it seriously. We figure that a lot of folks are not going to know how to use advanced order types. They're not going to necessarily understand all the bells and whistles on the exchange from day one. So making sure that every feature has a tooltip that links to a full article on what that feature is. And then, what is cryptocurrency? What is blockchain? I mean, we want to go back to the roots, make sure that stuff's well represented on there too. And I'll give a kind of an anecdote that I just saw today. Like Poloniex just came out with a video. It was like how to register for Poloniex. And like we're nearly finished with our video how to register for Beaxy. I was like, how long has Poloniex been around? How much money do they have to just now be doing like a how to sign up video? That seems like really, really basic table stakes kind of stuff. And I feel like a lot of exchanges just overlooked most of that. So we really wanted to go back to the basics and say, what are the core things that a user would need to be successful on Beaxy? Registration can be tricky. Let's make it simple. Just kind of an anecdote we feel like a lot of exchanges skipped that stuff. And we did not.
I would agree because I think a lot of exchanges take for granted how not tech savvy a lot of people are. Something like, I brought up Binance to my dad the other day, and like he was extremely hesitant to even sign up, and he's like, I don't want to give him any information. And I think it'll be very good to have, more, because Binance is, a big exchange, but they don't really, they do some things by the book, but they're also kind of playing this regulatory whack-a-mole game. Where they show up in one country and then they domicile in another, and then they move their operations to another. And I don't know how sustainable that is. So whether it is or it isn't, it'll be nice to have things that are like completely by the book as well.
100%. Yeah, and I don't know if anybody can claim to be completely by the book, but I think there's a set of best practices that are pretty clearly defined. I mean, if again, you just look at the documentation from enforcement action by the SEC and the CFTC, and it's been really clear what the two things are that they're worried about. It's KYC and market surveillance. It's not complicated, you know, but you're exactly right that they have played that whack-a-mole game. And maybe that's, you know, I don't want to critique their approach to their business. Maybe they have some rationale for doing that that we don't see. But I mean, if we're looking at the two things that are really the big elephants in the room, it's those. It's KYC and surveillance. So we required KYC from day one, and we've made, you know, significant effort to have surveillance on day one. If we don't have it day one, it'll be like weeks after launch max. We don't want to really be playing those games of, you know, who's in the right and who's not.
All right, Franklin. 30-second pitch why people should use Beaxy to wrap up.
Oh man, 30 seconds.
Starts.
I mean, I think
now.
It's kind of a, yeah. Okay. All right, let's go. Because you need options, point blank. You need options when you trade on exchanges for arbitrage purposes, to access different tools and features, and because fundamentally, from an evolutionary perspective, you have more to gain by trying something new than you have to lose. So we're literally offering you a first month free trading. You're not paying fees for the first month, and you've probably heard about us at this point. If you haven't, no big deal, but you should probably see what's going on before you dismiss it. So that's my 30 seconds. It's like, what do you have to lose?
Bingo. Thank you very much. All right, that is Franklin Fitch, head of marketing with Beaxy. Everyone check them out, Beaxy.com. Give them a follow on Twitter. Check out the things that they have coming. That, like he said, exchange will be live soon, right?
Yeah, very soon. Within weeks, you know, we're right around the corner.
Perfect. So thank you again very much, Franklin. It was a great episode. Wish you guys at Beaxy the best. Best of luck. Let us know if there's anything you can do. Thanks, everyone, for listening. It's been great. Always is great with everyone tuning in. Make sure you subscribe. Head over to our store, cryptostreetstore.com. Check out some of our dope-ass merchandise. Killer, Prince, Dale, we out. Hootskis for the boys. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Boom.